Capital District off-track betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We are live from the Capital OTB studio on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully CROTTY, Racing Across America. Sully, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Happy to be back on board on a Sunday morning to recap some stakes action. We'll do a little handicapping towards the end of the program. Our friend Steve Bick, live from Southern California, will get his thoughts on yesterday's two Grade 1s out in Southern California. A timely discussion yesterday, obviously, with Bob Baffert about those two races, which was fun yesterday. Let me remind you that we want to thank our friends at Gulfstream first for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park champions start here. And again, we thank them for their sponsorship of this program, some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. And speaking of events, let me also remind you of some of the promos coming up today. It's an NFL Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. We'd love to see you down here. Stop by the restaurant, have some lunch, sit at the bar during the afternoon if you would like to. But again, during the NFL season, you can watch all the games and catch all the racing action here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Next Friday, the Bounty Bet returns, so keep that in mind. $1,730 up for grabs. All you have to do is play the late pick 4 that is part of the contest via your Capital OTB Bet account, and you are in the pool to take a shot at that bounty. So keep that in mind. We'll talk more about that as the week progresses, but the Bounty Bet coming back on Friday. And a week from yesterday, next Saturday, December 15th, Fan Appreciation Day at the Broadway Lanes branch. So if you're a patron down there, swing on by. Give us our chance to say thank you to you. Again, that's next Saturday. And don't forget, you still have about a week for Toys for Tots. We have the donation box right here by the front door of the Clubhouse Racebook. It's that time of the year. Bring an unwrapped gift in, put it in the box, and put a smile on a child's face for the holiday season. Toys for Tots drop-off location right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Sully, before we get into yesterday's action, let's touch on last week. We talked about it for the Friday edition of the Handicappers Report, but for folks who don't have the opportunity, maybe you're at work during the week and just catch us on the weekends, let's recap. You and Mike Callahan were down at Aqueduct last Saturday, which turned out to be the last day of the meet, as they canceled Sunday because of fog. Last day of the fall meet, they're still at Aqueduct, but they transitioned from the fall meet to the winter meet. And as I say, they canceled Sunday, so Saturday was the last day of the meet. But more importantly, you guys were down there because it was Cigar Mile Day. And certainly pattern recognition looked very good in the Cigar Mile. Positive Spirit and Demoiselle was probably the winner that came out of it that I have the least, anticipation for going into next year. But it was a nice win in the Demoiselle. Marley's Freedom, I talked to Bob Baffert yesterday. You'd have to think she's in the running for that Filly and Mare Sprint Eclipse Award. Asked his opinion. He said, I don't get a vote. So come on, they all want to win. They all want that trophy. And the win just put an extra little punctuation on the resume. And Bob expressed how disappointed he was with their fourth place finish in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, and the wide trip cost her. I mean, she was right there, but got wide all the way around. But it was a nice performance last weekend at Aqueduct, and of course in the Remsen, I like Maximus Mischief. And I pulled up earlier because the Remsen to me is one of those races you come out of it and think, oh, a 2-year-old going 2 turns at this time of the year, that's going to be a nice 3-year-old. And it doesn't always work out that way. And I just, out of curiosity this morning, I pulled up But historically, there are some nice horses. I mean, just within recent years. Last year, obviously, we were down there for Catholic Boy. But a few years ago, Mohayman for Kieran, Honor Code for Shug recently, Overanalyzed for Todd, To Honor and Serve for Bill Mott, Court Vision for Bill Mott. So it's a race that, if they don't always make noise in the Kentucky Derby, certainly some horses turn out to be 3-year-olds to be reckoned with, and I think Maximum Mischief will be one of those. But you guys were down there for some nice stakes action.
Yeah, it really was a fantastic day. And as you said, the Ramsden field, that was a nice field, and Frankie was in town to ride that day. So as you said, I think that would be after seeing that performance, those connections, I think, will be a big player going into the 3-year-old season. And with the Cigar Mile, Mendelssohn retired after and really didn't go out the way we, as fans, you wanted him to. But, pattern recognition, that was just a fantastic performance. And then there was a big price underneath. I think that was Kieran McLaughlin's horse underneath, True Timbers.
Oh, so, yeah, exactly.
So it was a great day down in New York, and highlighted by a really nice Cigar Mile. And so it was nice to see Mendelssohn run one more time in person. So I obviously wish him the best with the breeding. So, and again, thanks to Naira for having us down there.
Yeah, you and Mike down there covering all day with live cut-ins, and you guys did a great job. And again, hopefully folks appreciated when we're on the road like that for some live cut-ins. And we were doing, putting together a little year-end piece that will air on Christmas Day when there's no racing. And we were kind of looking up what should we include and whatnot. Our road trips are kind of fun. We mentioned, we talked to Mark Cassie before Wonder Godot won the Queen's Plate this year. Caught up with Steve Asmussen before Gunrunner won the Pegasus. We were down there, talked to Todd Pletcher before Audible won the Florida Derby. So the road trips have been a lot of fun, and as I say, you guys did a great job. I noticed, though, you looked a little nervous up on the roof.
I'm not a big heights guy, and the idea
I
came.
don't believe it. Look like there's a railing there.
No, there wasn't, and the idea came across. Let's do a little
a
segment
great
up
view.
on the roof. I was just like, really? I don't know. That's a great idea. So, the more and more we were talking, and then
said it was a little windy up there too.
Yeah, the more and more we were talking, it kept shifting towards the center of the roof, and so, I'm not a big heights fan.
Well, hats out to you for going out there and giving it a shot. But again, you guys did a great job, and as I say, I hope everybody appreciated the live look from Aqueduct on their last really big day of the year, clearly last Grade 1 of the year down there. Speaking of Grade and Group 1s, just quickly, because I mentioned it yesterday, last night, overnight, in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong international races. And on the international scene, these are 4 of the bigger races every year. And they kind of put a nice capper on international racing for the years. They always come early to mid-December time. And just to quickly recap, the Hong Kong Vase, it was Exultant winning that one. The Hong Kong Sprint, kind of interesting. Hong Kong Sprint, 1-2 finish of a repeat from last year. It was Mr. Stunning over DB Penn. 1-2 this year, 1-2 last year in the same race, which again at this level is kind of interesting and unusual. In the Hong Kong Mile, it was Beauty Generation coming off a 4-race win streak coming in. This was kind of the logical horse that was getting the buzz coming into that mile. So Beauty Generation got it done in that race. And then in the Hong Kong Cup, it was Glorious Fever winning. So again, hopefully you had a chance to maybe stay up a little bit later and watch those races on the network. If not, certainly replays are available online of those races. All right, speaking of replays and recaps and whatnot, let's go back and take a look at some of the action from yesterday. Actually, first I wanted to go back to last weekend because obviously being on Sunday mornings, we don't have a chance to watch some of the Sunday stakes races. And on closing day at Del Mar last week, they had the Matriarch, nice Grade 1 event, so I did want to go back and take a look at that. As I handicapped the race, I put Basilica on top. She was just coming off a really nice win streak out in Southern California. What do we have? We had an 8-race win streak there. She was 9th for 10 this year. So I put Basilica on top. She's going to be the number 9 horse and run. Kind of a disappointing 4th as the 2-1 favorite. Number 13, Uni, will be the winner. Chad Brown trainee, little win streak of her own, was coming off 3-for-3 records so far in 2018. Most recently, the Noble Damsel at Belmont. 13 is going to be Uni, and she will get it done in here for Chad Brown. Number 7, Daddy is a Legend, 27-1. runs second, and kind of a hard luck second here. It just gets caught within the last 50 yards or so. And Quidera, the other Chad Brown runner, or another Chad Brown runner, runs third in here, but a nice performance by Uni, Joel Rosario on board.
Yeah, and I remember seeing Uni run at Saratoga over the summer and won the De La Rose, I think it was. And Irad was aboard that day, but now you got Joel aboard, who went out to California, I think, a few times over to Del Mar meet and absolutely, tore it up. He had a great couple days over in California, but the more surprising thing to me was Daddy's a Legend went off almost 28-1, and Daddy's a Legend should have won at Keeneland, but got forced over the rail by Cool Beans. So that horse, Daddy's a Legend went off 27-1, and then the other Chad Brown runner paid almost $7 to show. So some really well-known names and trainers there, and that triple paid $800 almost for 50 cents. But as you said, Basilica was a little tough to overlook because of that win streak. But if you were a big Uni fan, after Uni's performance at Saratoga, you got a really nice price, over $13 in return. Yeah,
you mentioned the 27-1 on Daddy is a Legend. I'm just looking at the PPs here, and there are 10 races on the page, and you have to go down to the 10th or the last race, which was Saratoga of 2017, to see the last time this horse went off at double-digit odds. I mean, you look back the last few races, as you say, the Valley View at Keeneland, where the horse was running a winning race and then went over the rail. 3-1 that day, 9-2 just before that. The 8-5 favorite, 3 races back, winning the Lake George up at Saratoga. So you get the idea. There's a little bit of value there with Daddy is a Legend. And you wonder if the last race maybe just didn't darken the form a little bit. Maybe the bettors weren't kind of clever enough to see through the DNF, the did not finish situation, because, nice stakes win up at Saratoga, and you look at the odds otherwise, the 27 looking very generous last Sunday. All right, let's go back to yesterday now, and just wanted to pull up the New York stake. The highlight of yesterday obviously was the grade ones out in Southern California. We'll save those replays for when we talk with Mr. Bick. But the stakes race at Aqueduct yesterday, a little bit uninspiring in that it's a short field to begin with, scratch reduced. I was going to take a shot with Dream Pauline. She winds up scratching out of this race. Once she scratched, it was pretty much all vertical oak. Sower, you maybe could have made a case for on a perfect effort. Yorkie Poo Princess could have been in the mix, but it looked like Steve Asmussen's Vertical Oak had these over a little bit of a barrel. It is Vertical Oak, the number 5 horse, winning by a chart margin of 1 1/4. Yorkie Poo Princess second. Sower runs third in here. But again, it was just one of those where once the scratch in the race, you maybe had a free square in the last leg of the early pick 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, that was such a big scratch to Dream Pauline, and kind of affected the odds just a little bit there. As you see, Vertical Oak was 3-5, and Yorkie Poo Princess coming off a stakes win at Aqueduct a couple weeks ago. You got a fair price at 3-1, but as you said, just with that one scratch, it really did change the whole race. But Eric Cancel picked up another win. He's been riding great the last couple of months in New York, so congratulations to him. But short field, it's really tough to wire fields in those short fields because everyone's so tight, and they're all sitting together around the far turn. So you kind of knew, Dylan had a little bit of horse there left with Yorkie Poo, but Vertical Oak got the job done, as you said, at the 3-5 price.
Yeah, and as they came down the stretch, it was one of those length and a quarter victories that you really weren't sweating too much as the horse started to pull away a little bit within the last 16th of a mile or so. So Vertical Oak picking up a check in the Garland of Roses yesterday. Looking pretty good. All right, let's also go on to they had some nice stakes races over at Maryland, little stakes races, but it's that time of year where you like to take a look at the 2-year-olds with maybe the thought of, are these horses to watch when the calendar turns on January 1st. At Laurel yesterday, the Maryland Juvenile Futurity, kind of redundant there. If they just said Maryland Futurity, that would have worked, really. But it's for state breds. So these are races will these be horses you have to pay attention to? I thought there was a couple in here that maybe you would. Scrap Copper came out of a win in the James Lewis back on November 10th, and our Brain Trust had a couple of races so far this year and was 2 for 2, maiden special weight and the Tremont. But the Tremont was back in June, so hadn't been seen since then. Scrap Copper's the number 4 horse. Our Brain Trust is the number 2 horse. Again, I thought there were 2 horses that potentially, with a good performance, could come out of this race, and you would feel like, they'll do well in open company because they already have before. But all of that said, on the front end, virtually the entire way around, Always Mining could not be caught in the stretch. Went off as the 3rd choice at 3 to 1, paid $8.80. And again, it's just one of those, got out in front, opened up a little bit, and nobody could make ground in the stretch. So Always Mining wins. And then the 2 I thought could be interesting, Our Brain Trust and Scrap Copper, 2nd and 3rd. But I'm going to have to go back and review some of the other Laurel races on the day, but it seemed like potentially the track played into Always Mining getting out there. That said, it was the legitimate fractions, 22 and change, 45 and change, 109 and change, and a 121 for the 7 furlongs. So that was a horse that I didn't necessarily have on the radar as one to pay attention to going into the race. Coming out of the race, I still want to see more from Always Mining because this was only the 3rd win in 8 career starts, and had tried some stakes company 2 back in the Laurel Futurity and was beaten that day. That, however, was on the turf. So Always Mining may be in the mix as well. But again, I'm going to go back and watch the races before I cross the line before Our Brain Trust and Scrap Copper.
Yeah, I would, as you said, like to see some more races from Always Mining, and even from the top 3 finishers, you like to see a little bit more and see if they can. Obviously, I think they should stay with the Maryland breds for a little bit, but excuse me. But if Always Mining wins another race like that, why not try into some stakes races that are at some different venues in different stakes races? Because as you said, the fractions were so-so for 7 furlongs and got to the front, and no one really made a move. So I'd like to see the horse run again at stakes company, just to see if the fractions will be a little bit quicker, if anyone will press the horse before the top of the lane. But can't take anything away from the connections and Always Mining, a nice win, and you got almost $9 in return for Always Mining.
Yeah, Dan Centino in for the ride, taking a day off from Tampa. And again, they have the nice stakes program through the winter at Maryland, so you can kind of pick your spots there, and then if these horses do prove themselves, they can ship out to face the open company or whatnot, or just kind of stick in Maryland and maybe wind up, what is it, the Spartan? There's the race that they take a shot in, and 1 or 2 horses usually come out of that and try the Preakness, so that wouldn't be surprising either for these type of runners. But again, always interesting this time of year to take a look at the 2-year-olds. And speaking of that, yesterday at Gulfstream, a nice stakes card. Plenty of 2-year-old stakes on the card, and then the Clásico da Caribe and the Caribbean Classic being the feature race. And I didn't pull up the replay, but it was the undefeated runner from Mexico that won, and in pretty fine fashion in that feature on the day. So congratulations to those connections. And again, those Caribbean races, man, the crowd was rocking. The apron, which they showed a few times, flags flying, and the winner's circle after those Caribbean races was jammed, and people clearly emotional and having a lot of fun. And the Gulfstream had the Spanish language announcer. Man, that guy's enthusiastic. After the race, every time I was tired just listening to him the whole way around, but it was a lot of fun again. But earlier on the card, they had the 2-year-old races, and I just wanted to pull up one because, again, this is the time of year, the kind of races that maybe signal 3-year-olds, and I love that 3-year-old turf division every year. And I think Henley's Joy will be worth paying attention to going forward in that subdivision of 3-year-olds on turf next year. The pulpit yesterday, Henley's Joy did go off as the 6-5 favorite. Some promising early races in the career, including an only start number 2, won a stakes race at Kentucky Downs. Prior to yesterday, had put in a disappointing effort in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. But again, that was a yielding turf course. Getting back to firm, Henley's Joy, the number 2 horse, wins pretty easily here. Chart margin of 4.5. Running second, Life Mission. Talked about that one yesterday with Acacia Courtney, and we both agreed. Wasn't kind of keyed in until she started talking, but this horse had come over from Europe, and again, the horse that finished second, I'm talking about Life Mission, the number 1, had come over from Europe, and the 3 races in the United States had been on good, soft, and yielding. So I thought, that horse might be interesting on a firm turf course, and a nice second-place finish from Life Mission, and Louder Than Bombs runs third. But again, Henley's Joy, now a couple of stakes wins, a close-up second-place finish in the Bourbon at Keeneland, and I think you can maybe just draw a line through that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, because I think even though the horse threw in a little bit of a dud, and it might have been due to the yielding turf course, that still has just a look of an aberration so far in the career. So as I say, as we get to January 1st and these horses become 3-year-olds, and there will be opportunities on the turf in 3-year-old stakes races, we'll keep our eyes on Henley's Joy going forward.
Absolutely, you have to. And, Tyler Gaffalione, seems like we say it every Sunday, he's been riding outstanding everywhere he's been. He won the Churchill meet, he won the Keeneland meet, off to a great start down in South Florida. But watching that replay, you kind of knew at the top of the lane that Henley's Joy was going to run away with that. And all championship meet long, you're going to see a lot of winners from Gaffalione trained by Mike Maker. So those connections obviously won a ton of races together. Louis Sayers, I thought, ran really well with Life Mission. And you got a nice price with that horse, but then again, at the top of the lane, you really knew Henley's Joy. It would be very, very hard for that horse not to win that race.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we put some races in the rear view mirror, but now we're going to look out the windshield and give you some ideas for this afternoon. A little handicapping up next, a little bit later on. Again, live from Southern California, Steve Bick will join us. Stay tuned. All of that after this.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Come on!
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Racing across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully CROTTY talked a few minutes ago about the end to the fall meet at Aqueduct, and just a little update there. They wrapped up, and again, they're still at Aqueduct, just technically speaking. The fall meet ended last Saturday. The winter meet began Friday. But the fall meet trainer title, tie on top, Rudy Rodriguez and Todd Pletcher. They tied with 25 wins apiece. Manny Franco winds up the leading jockey down there, and really this year I think he's kind of come into his own. And Chester and Mary Broman and Godolphin tied for the owner title down there. Aqueduct fall meet, again wrapping up last Saturday because Sunday canceled because of fog. Don't see that too often, fog, which on the wide shot it didn't look that bad, but we had talked to Dave Grenick that morning, and he said it had rained pretty heavily the night before, so I'm wondering if the track condition would play into it as well. But they got back to the races on Friday.
Yeah, and as you said, this time of year we're down in New York. There's going to be some cancellations with some weather, but just happy it was on Sunday, not Saturday, with that really nice Cigar Mile card. But yeah, as you said, Manny, he's been riding extremely well in New York for a couple of years now, and just a big congratulations to Manny for taking down that jockey title. Much deserved, and I believe he won the Winter last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you might be
and then
right.
Dylan Davis was second.
And that's going to be fun to watch. It always is. But when the big guys move out of town, there's a chance for some other people to kind of make their name. Junior Alvarado's had a big couple of days so far. So it's going to be fun to see as we get into this winter meet a couple of weeks in, who starts to kind of separate themselves out on the jockey side. All right, again, as promised, we'll give you an idea for some action for this afternoon. And we'll start things out. Sully will take a look at Fairgrounds race number 7, an allowance non-winners of 1 other than 3/4 of a mile. Again, Sully, 7th race at Fairgrounds. What do you see?
I went 4, 6, 5, and 1. The number 4 on top. Joe Bravo's going to be aboard for Godolphin, and Michael Stidham does the training. Really nice meet for Stidham. He's running the money just over 50% with 21% winning percentage. This is a horse that raced in an allowance non-winners of 1 other than last time and lost by a length and a quarter. So some slow fractions. I thought the horse had to get home there, but there was a horse a half length off the entire way to finish second by a length. I thought was an okay finish. Definitely the horse to beat, and you're getting a nice price at 3-1 on the morning line. The number 6 horse, 9-2 on the morning line, going out for Steve Asmussen, Winchell Thoroughbred Zones, and Ricardo Santana Jr. will be aboard. A horse that's coming in from Remington, and a really nice win as the favorite. Now, and Steve Asmussen, again, he's making an impact every meet he's gone to. He's running the money 13 times in 17 starts, winning 29% of those starts. But now you get Ricardo aboard. He's only been there for 4 races, and he's running them, and he has 3 times in the money. And that second place finish arguably could have been a win. So really nice connections there, and a horse that's coming in looking very impressive. They're gonna go run this distance again after a really impressive performance out of town. And then the number 5 horse, 5-2. I think it's just a little short. I think you need to play in your exotic plays, in your triples and supers. But just for a horse for course angle, this horse has 2 wins over this fairground surface and is running the money every single time. Raced at the allowance non-winners of 1 last time out. Okay, 4th. That was at Keeneland on the slop. Going back, there's definitely still some moisture in the track because it was sloppy all day yesterday. But the last 2 races have been the slop, and one of those races was at Churchill going 7th. Cutting back to 6, a horse that's going to be sitting right off the pace. Definitely could get a jump here on some of the closers in this spot. But short price for me going back to a fast track, but definitely a horse for course angle with the number 5, Haynes Fest. So in the 7th at Fairgrounds, I went 4, 6, 5, and 1. Seth's going to be looking at the opener at Gulfstream Park today. Race 1 at Gulfstream is a maiden special weight. This is for 3-year-olds and up. They're going 7.5 furlongs on the turf, and it's 2 turns, 7.5 furlongs.
I wanted to toss this one in just because it's 15-1, the number 12 Battle of Memphis. I put it at the bottom of my mix. I have it 8, 7, 6, and 12, but it's Mark Cassie and it's Gary Barber, and I just wanted to, not let another one of these horses get by. It was Thursday afternoon. This team, $100 winner with a first-time starter. How did that horse? And now this is like the 3rd day I've talked about it, and I say I'm not redboarding, but I just pointed out because you can't. You kind of have to watch the toe board a little bit, and not that the horse was a sure thing, all right, but there was a little bit of breeding, and it was more the price. It was more you look up and say, put a couple of bucks if I can get 100 back. You just have to be a pain. And as I say, I'm not redboarding because I didn't use it. It was only after the race that I kind of kicked myself, but it's just a reminder. So I put that one at the bottom of my mix. And I think the race the other day for the firster from Cassie and Barber was a race that just was more lacking in potential. I think the horses in here have a little more that you can hang your hat on, the horses with experience. So I went 8, 7, 6, and 12. I put Preacher Power on top. Freddie Keneally comes in pretty good form, 4 career starts, seems potentially on the improve, in fact, and looks good this afternoon with Late Barreau riding. Love Sick Kitten in the 2nd spot. Nice try last time at Keeneland, and underneath good numbers that stack up with this bunch. And another Mark Cassie runner. In fact, this is kind of funny. because I believe in that race on Thursday with the $100 Cassie winner, I went with another firster from Cassie, and I believe that one was from Live Oak. So we'll see that. But I may be doing the same thing today, but I'm not leaving the Cassie Barber out of the mix. But Super Wish from Cassie and Live Oak. Showed some nice punch last time before fading a little bit towards the end. Still wound up a good second. That was on the dirt at Churchill. Might be interesting moving over to the turf this afternoon. And then I will not leave Cassie and Barber out of the mix, but I'll put that one down at the bottom at 15-1 with Jose Ortiz on board. So the opener at Gulfstream, 8, 7, 6, and 12. All right, both Sully and I will have a meeting of the minds here. We'll both take a look at the Gulfstream Park 9th race. Gulfstream Park 9th is a conditional claimer, 16 tags, N3L, 7.5 on the grass. Sully, what did you see in the 9th at Gulfstream?
I'm going to take a little bit of a shot here. I went 2, 6, 10, and 11, and the number 2 is Nothing's Free. This horse, Nick Juarez, is going to be aboard. He's had a nice meet at the Champions Meet so far, taking the blinkers off of this one for the first time. And the turf has been, if you definitely didn't out, the early stages of this meet, being on the lead on the turf has not been kind to these horses, and the turf's been closing extremely well. So I'm going to take a shot here. A horse going to go 2 turns, switching from dirt to turf, going to get to the lead. Hopefully can slow this pace down where Nick Juarez can run away, because it is a new turf course at Gulfstream. They redid the whole thing, so hopefully some of the speed will be able to hang on in this spot. The number 6 horse in the second spot for me, going out, Haramia is going to be aboard. He picked up a couple winners again yesterday. This horse has run okay at Gulfstream. Also ran well at Tampa. GP West, I thought, threw in a little bit of a clunker, but started to switch barns there. So this is a horse that's going to be sitting off the pace. Again, if the pace is slow, but set by Nothing's Free, this horse is going to be sitting right there as well. And I thought at the B condition claimer, that little bit of a clunker throwing, and the horse took a lot of money. But going back to Gulfstream, the horse has had some success going 2 turns on the grass. I'm going to use in the second spot. Then the 10 and the 11 underneath in the third and fourth spot. Number 10 is Thanks Mom. This is a horse that has a little bit of the bug advantage in this spot. And last time out, a distance fourth at a bigger price, and then came in from Delaware. So I think a revert back to those Delaware races, one sprinting 7.5, then stretched out to 1 mile and 7. He came in second, and also came in second at 1 mile on a good surface. So Thanks Mom. I do think if the horse reverts back to some of those races at Delaware, could make a little bit of an impact in this race. And the fractions were slow, and the horse ran okay from right off the pace or a couple lengths off the pace. So Thanks Mom is in that mix. And then Run Blondie Run, I couldn't leave out. I wish it's tough for me to leave so far down, but found the winner's circle once at 11 starts, but definitely I think you need to use in triples and superfectas. The last 4 or 5 starts has been fantastic. Paco Lopez will be aboard after a nice win at GPW last time going a route distance. So in the 9th at Gulfstream, I went 2, 6, 10, and 11.
We have similar thinking. You have 2, 6, 10, and 11. I have 10, 11, 8, and 6. So we overlap on 3 of the logicals. You're using number 2, Nothing's Free. I'm using number 8, War Queen, as potentially offering a little bit of value. But I put Thanks Mom on top. Like you, I'm looking to get back to those Delaware races, and I think that's possible with the return to turf. Run Blondie Run, as you say, just seems to be in good form right now. But I had to put the 8 in the mix. 10-1 on the morning line. MERROW on board. It's my man Jonathan Shepard. I'm surprised I didn't put him on top, but I just couldn't pull the trigger quite on top. But I do think this horse coming down from Presque Isle, maybe getting some class relief, could be very interesting, particularly if that morning line holds up. So for me in the 9th at Gulfstream, 10, 11, 8, and 6. All right, let's move on to some stakes action north of the border. This is fun. About a week left in this Woodbine meet. And on this Sunday afternoon, a Grade 3, the valedictory, $125,000 up for grabs. Why is it fun? 1.75 miles. Sully's going to take a look at this one. While we do take a look, I reached out and pulled up an allowance race from November 16th. We're going to watch the number 6, Pumpkin Rumble here. Pumpkin Rumble win pretty easily. Good lead into this race. 1.75 miles this afternoon. Pumpkin Rumble in this race. mile and 5/8. So plenty of stamina for Pumpkin Rumble. 9-5 on the morning line under Eureka de Silva. That looks like the horse you have to go through, the number 9 Pumpkin Rumble, but how did you see it, Sully?
Yeah, and watching the replay on the screen right now, that's just a really impressive win there. Definitely the horse to beat is Pumpkin Rumble, and as you said, just a really unique distance here on the synthetic up in Toronto. But this is a horse, as you said last time out, and overall in the career running at Woodbine. The horse has done a fantastic job here for the Kevin Attard barn, and as you said, Eureka de Silva aboard. He's won 226 races, I believe, winning 28% of his races at the meet. But Pumpkin Rumble, I think, is going to be tough to beat. And this is a horse that last time out was a little bit closer to the pace and ended up winning by 6. But if you look at some of the past races, this is a horse that also can close a little bit. We saw that over the summer in some grade 3 and grade 2 events up at Woodbine, but that was on the grass, so just an impressive performance last time out. It's going to be tough to beat Pumpkin Rumble. The number 1, English Illusion, the horse that ran a distant second to Pumpkin Rumble, I'm going to use in the second spot, and this horse wants nothing to do with the pace. Ran in third in the Northern Dancer, 10 lengths off the lead, a 49 1/2. Johnny Bear won that race for the second year in a row. Hawkbill, a little bit of disappointment in that race. I believe had an injury, but still a really nice third by a length there. Threw in a little bit of clunker in the Canadian International. Very, very deep field there, so not really holding anything against English Illusion there. But the horse took a little bit of money because of that performance in the Northern Dancer. On Woodbine Mile Day, we'll use English Illusion and the closing speed in the second spot. And then the number 7 is Mel Mitch. Luis Contreras is going to be aboard again out of the Attard barn. This is a horse that won last time out an optional claiming race. Came in third in a grade 3 event at Woodbine, going a mile and 1/8. So I think this distance will help this horse out, and it's going to make this horse is going to make the 5th start at the distance with a win and 2 place showings. So in the feature at Woodbine this afternoon, I went 9-1, 7 and 6. Seth's going to look at. He raced at Aqueduct today, the 5th at Aqueduct. This is a maiden special weight. This is for 2-year-old fillies, going 6 furlongs.
Just wanted to pull this up because we have a $1 million horse in here that I put on top with trepidation. 8-1, 7 and 6 in that 5th at Aqueduct. But Birdie Numb, by Tappet in the barn of Tommy Albatrani. They paid $1 million for this horse at Keeneland last year, Keeneland September. Tommy Albatrani not known first time out of the box, but the horse debuts, excuse me, early to mid-December of the 2-year-old season at Aqueduct. I'm just thinking the horse will be well met today. But again, Tommy Albatrani not known, so might need a race before we get a better effort from this one. But I'll put that one on top. Katama Moonlight goes out for Chad Brown. Now, Chad's horses tend to be far more well met first time out. And this one by Malibu Moon, they paid $400,000 at Keeneland September. So you would expect this horse to be a runner. And again, Chad better known to have the firsters ready. So Katama Moonlight, and then Moon and Stars by Orb from Tony Dutrow, Bullet Workout coming in. And finally, Canarsie Girl at 15-1. I'll just mention, I love Golden Sense as a sire of win early types, so it wouldn't shock me. Gary Contessa, however, I've had him sitting next to me at Saratoga, and he has said, I like to give the horses a race, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. But so, again, he has numbers that are a little bit light for first-time starters, but I just can't ignore Golden Sense, so I had to put that one in the mix. 5th at Aqueduct, 8-1, 7 and 6. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll reach out to our man Steve Bick in Southern California, get some of his thoughts. I know he was at Los Alamitos yesterday for the 2 grade 1s as he was tweeting out plenty of photos. We'll talk about that. He was also at the symposium earlier this week in Arizona, so we'll hit on that as well. All of that right after this. Stay tuned.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
But Game On Dude is just battling them all off. Game On Dude has the lead. Here's Drosselmeyer out of the clouds. Drosselmeyer from nowhere. And Drosselmeyer and Mike Smith have beaten Chantel Sutherland on Game On Dude.
Not at the track and not near a computer? No problem. Wager with Capital OTB's Touch-Tone Wagering System and you'll never get shut out again. Capital OTB's Touch-Tone Wagering System is quick, simple to use, and guarantees your wagers are accurate and placed on time. For more information, visit CapitalOTB.com or call Capital OTB's customer service hotline at 800-292-BETS. Capital OTB's Touch-Tone Wagering System. Never get shut out again.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. As promised before the break, Steve Bick, live from Southern California. He was in Arizona earlier this week with the radio show, Sirius and XM's At the Races, covering the symposium. We'll hit on that a little bit as well. Steve, good morning.
Seth, good morning. Who else is there with you?
Sully's in the studio with me this morning. We covered some of the races from yesterday and did a little handicapping for today as well, but wanted to hit on the two grade ones with you towards the end of the program. Before we did that, however, I was following your Twitter feed, and we picked up a couple of shots. Actually, I think Dean Armin in the control room picked up a shot maybe from Facebook. First of all, a little sightseeing yesterday out in Southern California. You had you outside the Rose Bowl.
You know, as many times as I've come here, and even before my association with racing, the last 15 years, I've never been to the Rose Bowl. I've never seen it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to dive down here. It was early in the morning, and it is really cool. And I'm going back in a little bit for the second Sunday of December flea market. They've got a big antique flea market, apparently, second Sundays. And apparently it's a big deal, so I'm going to go check that out later as well.
At the Rose Bowl?
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Rose Bowl is more than just the stadium. There's a huge park.
Okay.
Much like Dodger Stadium. For those that have been to Chavez Ravine, there's a huge park. And in fact, now that I think about it, if you go to Griffith Observatory, it's all a big, gigantic park as well. So that's obviously the geographic landmark here, that you put a big park around, one of the stadiums and such. But the Rose Bowl, when you see that logo and you see the building, it's pretty iconic and pretty remarkable. I was tickled. I'm glad I did it, and then I found out about the flea market, so I'm going to head over there later.
The observatory. Now, you're a movie buff. I'll ask you. They maybe have done many movies there, but. Does that ring a bell? Movie at the Griffith? And I'll toss in. I'll hint you. James Dean.
Oh, Jesus, you're unbelievable. Yes, of course, and not only going back that far, but also La La Land most recently.
Oh, I never saw La La Land. Yeah, that one that was a little too quirky for me.
Quirky.
Yeah, a modern day musical it wasn't. And not that I'm against musicals. In fact, West Side Story, they're remaking that. Spielberg, I think, is remaking it.
Well, Damn Yankees, baby. Is that more?
Yeah. There you go.
That's where you cut off your movie musical.
We did not answer the question though. Rebel Without a Cause at Griffith's
Rebel Without a Cause, right? But there's been others too. There's been the cute movie with Jim Carrey and the girl that sings. That's you want to talk about quirky? There's scenes in there too. Yes Man. The movie.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Has got scenes at Griffith Observatory. I took Tina there last time she was in town. That's another thing where I had some free time and I wanted to see Griffith Observatory. And you come up the hill and it's there, and the entire city of Los Angeles is laying out there in front of you. I mean, would love to, frankly, to pick up the wife, scoop her up, and take her out here. But she's teaching, and so we're married to the Capital District. But I have come to really love coming out here, and Tina loves it when she's here too.
Yeah, I got a couple of nephews that live out in L.A. They're in the movie and television business, and I have yet to go out and visit, but I got to put that on the agenda and get out there certainly. Before we get to races, not to stay too far off topic, but again, on the Twitter feed, I just had to pull it up because you are like the Guy Fieri of the racing game. You had the shot of the hot dog that you pulled up on the road trip, and we have the picture on the screen right now. I'm a hot dog guy. I'm not sure, though. I love bacon wrapped. I'm all for that. But then you toss in the onions, the guac, and the beans. I'm not sure about that. And, man, they go triple on the condiments. Ketchup, mustard, and mayo there. But, as I say, Food Network has to plug you in on the road trips to the racetracks.
Well, that is what is called a Sonoran hot dog. All right? It's not just a hot dog that's all, gussied up. It's a particular style that apparently originated in Hermosillo in Mexico. And what this kid does, his name is Victor Alvarado. He's been there 9 years with a little cart right off the highway, off the I-10 in Eloy, E-L-O-Y, right between, closer to Tucson than Phoenix. And I stopped to get a cup of coffee or a drink, and I see him there, and I see 2-3 trucks, and that's all I need to see to know that it's good. And then I looked him up on Yelp, and everybody raves about it. So I had never even heard of a Sonoran hot dog, and it's very much in this region from California through the high desert, and it was spectacular. He takes the bun and he grills the bun so it gets toasty on the outside, fluffy inside. Then he's got the hot dog with bacon wrap, and then all the other stuff. Jalapenos too. I think I forgot to say jalapenos, but it was spectacular.
I have to admit, it looks pretty good on the screen. But all right, let's jump into the racing action. Again, you're out in Southern California after making the trip over from the symposium in Arizona. And again, on the Twitter feed, saw some pictures from Los Al yesterday. Let's jump right in. It was funny, I had Bob Baffert on yesterday, and we talked his runners in both the Futurity and the Starlet. But out of that Derby Future Pool number 1 a couple weeks ago, 22 individuals, he had 7 of the 22, including these two, Improbable and Mucho Gusto. They're going to run 1-2 as we watch the replay. Number 1 is going to be Improbable, winning pretty easily as the 1-5 favorite. Mucho Gusto runs second. Extra Hope runs third. But Improbable now 3 for 3 in the career, including a stakes win at Churchill in the start just before this, won the Street Sense. Looks like a nice 2-year-old, not only for Bob Baffert, but for Windstar and China Horse Club as well.
Well, the very familiar team, the Justified team on hand. Although actually I didn't see Mike Wallace from China Horse Club, but Jack Wolf was there and Elliot Walden as well. This was a very impressive performance, and first time around 2 turns, and not just 2 turns, Seth. The other part of this is when you're at Los Al, it's a very tight, those are hairpin turns. So it's a little demanding. You gotta have an athletic horse. As people saw, you had the difficulties that Mike Smith had with Savagery. That wasn't Savagery. It was the Bondi. I forget whose horse. Who was Smith? Smith was on
Peter Miller. Savagery's Peter Miller, and that was Florent Giroux, and Smith was on Dueling, the Hollendorfer horse.
That's right, and Giroux had terrible trouble turning because of how tight the turn is. And you don't have a horse that corners well, and sure enough, he gets out. He ends up really compromising Smith and Dueling, who got kicked out real wide. But anyway, more importantly, down inside, here's Improbable, who had to be really restrained by Drayton Van Dyke. If you watch this again closely, take a good look at the feet on the dashboard that Van Dyke has got. And finally, approaching the turn, so, well into this race, a good halfway into the race, finally, Improbable seems to relax a little. And then, coming around the turn, he clearly got a little kind of got a little lost, I think, and was kind of confused as to what was being asked. But then as soon as he straightened out, he then started to plug away, got a couple of urgings from Van Dyke. What's really impressive is watch him pass the 16th pole. After he changes leads, he really levels and drops down and only starts to run like the last 250 yards. So he's going to continue to stretch out, and the 9 furlongs and beyond. I mean, this was really impressive as it turned out. The first time they ran the race live, I thought, okay, that's a nice win. And then waiting for the next race, I watched the replay and realized that this was a serious effort. So not only is Game Winner and Coliseum and so many of these other ones that that we're going to be watching Baffert after the first of the year, or as we get kicked off at Santa Anita in a few weeks. This is really a serious horse, only a $200,000 yearly, and he's done everything right.
And again, checking out your Twitter feed this morning, you popped out a 96 buyer. This time of year for a 2-year-old, that's a pretty good number as well.
Absolutely, and the way he finished is what people should really be taken by. He was only running really late in that race, and he's the goods. And bravo! I was there at Churchill, of course, for the Street Sense effort, which was impressive in its own right. So Baffert gets his young horses started at Los Al because it's very quiet. There's a lot less traffic on the racetrack and such, and he gets them going over here. And this is a horse that is going to move up on a lot of people's, for people that were headed toward Game Winner or had other horses in mind. This was a really impressive performance.
And just before we move on to the Starlet, mentioning Los Al and training and whatnot, I'm just curious because obviously you've been big days at Santa Anita as well. I'm just curious as far as Los Al and this time of the year and whatnot, what kind of a crowd did they get?
Oh, you had a nice crowd there. You had a very good crowd. Good. Oh, yeah. Then, of course, you got a whole different crowd. 3 years ago when I came, it happened that the night session, the quarter horse, it's a quarter horse track.
Yeah.
And the big races, Champion of Champions, and then there's also that 2-year-old Los Al Championship, which is, I think they run for $3 million. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then Champion of Champions is a very famous long-running race for older quarter horses, and that's like $700,000 to $1 million. There was a year where that was run on the night session after the Futurity and Starlet, and so there was a day-night doubleheader, which I went through, which was a lot of fun. And you get a very big crowd there, and it's completely different. It's it's the rodeo crowd with a lot of hats and a lot of boots and jeans and a very big Latino turnout. It's a completely different thing, and it's well worth experiencing. That big night is next weekend. The next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, they run those 2 big races at Los Al on the night session.
Yeah, nice. I'm glad that they get the good crowd there, though, for this little short meet in between Del Mar and the traditional Santa Anita. But let's go back to the Starlet a little later on the card yesterday. Again, another Grade 1 event, this time obviously for the 2-year-old fillies. And again, Baffert had a couple of horses we talked about yesterday with Mother, and Chasing Yesterday. Chasing Yesterday gets it done. She'll be the number 5 horse. Has to hold off Anaya Al-Rab. Close up really between the top 3. It's a head, a neck back to Mother in third, the other Baffert runner. But again, checking your Twitter feed, an 82 buyer for Chasing Yesterday in the Starlet. Drayden Van Dyke on board again.
Well, this is a nice win for a couple of interesting reasons. And I actually got to spend some time with Jane Lyon in the Summer Wind Farm, and Jane Lyon, little Princess Emma, she bred this filly and clearly is keeping her as opposed to selling. The excitement for her and really the pleasure of getting a filly out of American Pharoah's Dam to win a Grade 1, it's incredibly important. And Jane Lyon herself was telling me she pulled Chasing yesterday out of Little Princess Emma. She was there for the foaling, which I really thought was impressive. And she was just beside herself. And what's interesting about Chasing yesterday, who's a Taffet, the difference between her and American Pharoah is the quickness and the brilliance. This is not a brilliant filly at all, and that's why she got blitzed in the spinaway. I can understand why Baffert shipped her and tried to take advantage right away after she'd broken her maiden during the summer and came in for the spinaway. But she is going to only get better as these distances stretch out. Watch the replay here. She just grinds away. She's a one-pace type, but she will run all day. And so look for her at 1 1/8 miles, and she'll be a very serious distaff horse down the road, and kind of a Delaware handicap type. This is not. She's not like her brother at all, but she's really quite nice, and this is a mammoth victory for her and for Jane Lyon. I was glad I was there for that, and the Star was one of my favorite big races of the year. It has been since I became a fan of Hollywood Story years ago.
And again, a couple of Grade 1s that highlighted the schedule across the country yesterday at Los Alamitos with the Futurity and the Starlet, certainly going to play into the 3-year-old season as the calendar turns on January 1st. Steve, before we let you go, a few minutes, again, with the radio show, you were at the symposium earlier this week down at the University of Arizona. Talked to Matt Hagerty yesterday and got kind of a little overview and recap. Sports betting was a big topic. Integrity was a big topic. You moderated a panel. This is kind of interesting. The value of supporting racing's core product and players. Talk a little bit about your panel.
Well, we concentrated on the necessity of the industry to take care of business and to get the fundamentals and the basics right. And that's really of concern. Here we are pretending that the sports betting landscape is going to be some mammoth windfall for racing. It's not going to be a windfall for racing, particularly if we aren't doing the right things with the existing customer base and the basic product that we're supposed to be handling. And I tried to boil it down to distill it to as few words as possible, and I came up with an engaging product presented well and priced right. And that was my kind of overview. And the two key contributors to the discussion, Chris Larney, who is a big player and contest star actually on the contest circuit and an advisor to the NHC, the NTRA, and Pat Cummings, with, of course, now with the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation. And Pat latched on to breakage and showed how that would be a big benefit if we were to make breakage a target to help churn and to put money into players' pockets. And Chris was talking about how basically the industry doesn't even know what their core product is, which is wagers. We're selling wagers. And the importance of taking care of the existing horse player base is top one. And there's nothing else to think about. I mean, I understand the entertainment portion and the fashion and the party and all that stuff that America's Best Racing and some of these other marketing arms are pushing as a way to get people to the racetrack. But the wager is the thing, and we're not servicing the customer base to their satisfaction. And until we do, we're not going to get new business. We're not going to attract people. And, there's been some progress when it comes to some lower cost particularly the multi-races like the 15% pick 5 and Stronach Group has got the 12% Stronach 5. The industry has gotten cognizant, and a lot of new wagers have gone in that direction, being priced properly. But the melded takeout rate continues to be really tough on players, and that there has to be a way to attack that and to make the game more competitive, because you're not going to appeal to people that are serious gamblers with the product the way it is right now. And there's so much here, Seth. I mean, I brought up things that are annoying horse players, and whether that's the proper timing, the accurate timing of races, the information that is out into their hands. There was a laundry list of things that have been, really, they're not news. So we have to take care of the product that we have before we worry about, getting new business. And in the meantime, there's going to be a legitimate challenge to the sport overall, because people are going to sports bet, and if we lose handle, or if we just don't bring in people that might have potentially been horse players, you're in trouble. And plenty of people feel we're in trouble already, even though things are kind of leveled and wagering has been steady, really the last couple of years after the economic downturn and the big hit that the industry took. But there's plenty wrong that could be addressed that would be steps in the right direction, and that was the message we were trying to convey.
Yeah, and as I say, I talked to Matt yesterday and went over some of his articles and his coverage of some of the panels, and sports betting was interesting because, I've said right since the point sports betting became legalized and the racing industry was kind of latching onto it, watch out what you wish for kind of thing. I think the potential is there for very positive results, because I think there's a more likely crossover from sports bettors to racing than from, say, slots players or blackjack players necessarily to racing. So I think there's the potential there for a good thing, but the racing industry has to watch and move in the right direction and be aware. And one of his panels, and he wrote about it a little bit, talked about sports betting benefiting the racing in Australia. But as Matt wrote and as the panelists were saying, Australian racing kind of adapted and changed a little bit. And Matt brought up one of the changes they made when you talk about the pricing and betting. They were talking about flex betting, where you can walk up to the window and say, I only want to spend $200, but here's my pick 6 ticket. And so the flex bet matches to your budget there. But Australian racing kind of moved in a direction that played into what was potentially this new audience, and I think we have to do that as well.
That's a great point. The other element of that in Australia and New Zealand with the tab operation is odds wagering, which we absolutely could do. And one of the things that is driving players crazy are the late odds changes, and that basically boils down to the computer assisted wagering groups that are sending in 70%, basically 70% of the handle on any one race is going to come in the last minute and a half, give or take. And these late odds changes, they're driving players crazy. Well, then let's use the model of the fixed odds wagering that is out there, and let people lock in their price. I mean, there's been a lot of evidence and research. New players, when they made a bet, in some cases they didn't really realize that the odds could change, that the odds could drop after they made a bet. So there are some tools out there that we could experiment with and try, and certainly the model exists based on pari-mutuel pools to lock in pricing. There's been a model that's existed for years, and in New Zealand, I happened to be with the people at HBPA. Actually, no, it was at the Vegas. It was at NHC, and that's the guys from New Zealand tab, and they say the fixed odds has now gotten level 50-50 with the pari-mutuel pool in New Zealand, and they were surprised by that. They thought that it would be 20%, maybe a third, but now it's drawn even. So we've got test tubes for this kind of thing, and we've got to, as you say, adapt. And part of our problem, Seth, is the financial investment. One of the problems that we just don't have. I don't think organizations that they've got disposable money to keep up and stay modern. I mean, whether it's racetracks, some racetracks that aren't using high definition because they don't want to spend the money on the equipment. Whether the tote, some people say about the tote system and how the tote system is antiquated. The tote's a little bit more complex. There are aspects of the tote that have modernized and are state of the art, but the thing people should remember is there's several different tote providers, and they have to integrate, and that's the challenge. So there are some things that the industry has done well. I mean, just the fact that all of us can walk around and make a bet. This morning I got up at 2 a.m. and I could have bet the Hong Kong Cup. I mean, there's things that we've done, and there's tools that have been put in players' hands, but we have to absolutely do everything at our disposal to satisfy the players and make the players feel like they're valued and that they're contributing and that they have a stake in the game. And too much of the industry is not on board with that message.
And you're absolutely right. We shouldn't ignore the improvements that have been made in the industry because they are great and vast with the technology over the past 10 or 20 years, but there is still further room for improvement. One of the topics I was glad they talked about at the symposium, just that the industry is recognizing it. You got to look at what happened with the Greyhound racing down in Florida. It's a little bit of a cautionary tale, and I think we have to remember that we can't lose our contact with the mainstream media. We can't be complacent about that. We have to keep the horse racing game out in the forefront. So again, that cautionary tale with Greyhound racing doesn't affect us, and I like that they talked about that. But I'll also say, again, Haggerty has some good coverage of the panels you can find on DRF. You did a great job last week, and you mentioned Chris Larmy. I listened to his interview, and I'll tell people, go back to your archive and pick that up. But it was also fun, before we let you go, I'll just let you touch on this a little bit. For young folks who are in our audience, and I've touted it before, if you're thinking about a career in the racing industry, that racetrack industry program down at the University of Arizona is a great way to go. The number of alumni in the industry, backstretch and front side in the offices, is vast and worth noting. And you talked to some of the students out there, and it's fun to listen to them as well.
Oh, no doubt. The kids make it special, and you go there and you see how kind of wide-eyed and excited they are at their eagerness and the questions they ask. I had a young guy that is going to be doing the paddock hosting at Rillito, the little tiny racetrack that has about a 3-week meet in February, March, and he's going to be the face and voice of Rillito. And he was asking questions about interviewing horsemen and so forth, and I just get such a great feel coming out of it every time we come. Young and old. I mean, don't think that this is just undergrads. 18, 22-year-olds that are making their first, their first foray at higher education. You've got people in their 20s and 30s that are changing careers and are coming, and they quite famously regarding our show, a guy by the name of Scott Little, and there was also Steve May, who's now Steve literally heard about the RTIP on my show.
2 or 3 of them that you talked to this week said, yeah, I was kind of deciding what I want to do with my life and where to go to college. My dad said he was listening to your radio show and he suggested the RTIP program because the dad was listening to the radio show.
That's a guy by the name of Keith Stafford. His son Elijah is there and as excited as can be. And I was impressed or a little surprised at how many of the kids are headed toward the training side. and there were at least 3 or 4 that I talked to that want to train, and there were a couple actually interested in the bloodstock side, and including Elijah Stafford. But met a girl who is from Southampton on Long Island. She wants to train, and you look at who's come out of there. You mentioned the alumni, Chuck Simon, of course, and Baffert and Fletcher, and on and on. I mean, there's no. I mean, it's just a who's who, and then on the administrative side, I mean, there's just countless, and not just administrative racetrack. These are also people that end up working on the business side. My friend Laurie Fry. Laurie's with Equine Insurance, and you kind of lose sight of how big the industry is, and all of the areas that service it. So that part is particularly evident because there's there's all kinds of vendors that come. The Roberts communication people, for instance, the TV side. Dan Silver is who was with Naira in a couple of different ways. He's working for Roberts Television and developing the international signals with him, with Todd Roberts. So you name it, whatever area of the industry you'd be interested in, it's available. It's out there for anybody, whether you're in high school looking ahead or whether you're in your 20s and not happy with your current situation. You should look into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if folks are out there in the audience, young people or parents of young people who are thinking of a career in the industry, it's not just trainers in the backside. There are all kinds of people, publicity and accounting and whatnot on the front side as well that can get you involved in the game. Steve, got to wrap it up, but as always, appreciate the visit, the recap of some of the stakes action and the symposium as well. Enjoyed the radio show this week and looking forward to more of it as we move into next week as well. You headed back today?
No, I'll do the recap show. It's always nice to do the recap show on Monday. I started doing that a few years ago, and then I'll fly back afterward. I hope that Tina is going to meet me late tomorrow night at Albany at the airport, and then really just there'll only be another 9 shows. We'll finish the broadcast here a week from Friday. So we got the lead up to the Christmas New Year's break. And then we'll start into our, 17th year,
Jeez,
something like that.
I remember the J.J. Gracie days when you were just a guest.
Absolutely. I started November of 2005, and then not long after started a co-host, and then my name went on the marquee in Belmont Week 07.
And as they say, the rest is history.
Exactly.
But again, you do a great job. Looking forward to the recap tomorrow and then listening the rest of the week as well. So we'll let you go, but travel safe.
I appreciate it, and best wishes for everybody for a Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll talk to you next time you need me, Seth.
Sounds good. Steve Bick, again, live from Southern California. Tune in this coming week for Monday from Southern California for some recap discussion, and then the further rest of the week, the normal show. You can hear on the network early in the morning as well, or go to his website. As they say, I'd pick up some of the archives from last week if you didn't hear them this week. Just type in Steve's name in Google. It pulls up his website, and you'll find it. Pull up the archive. You can listen at your convenience. All right, a full show. Some stakes recaps, some ideas for this afternoon. The Laurel Futurity, again, Bob Baffert seems live in both the 3-year-old Colt and 3-year-old filly division. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, absolute surprise there, right?
As I say, when that Future Pool 1 came out, 22 individual horses, he's got 7.
Yeah, that's what we have come to with Bob Baffert's barn. It's just
and then as he wraps up the interview with me yesterday, he's saying, yes, we're looking for the next American Pharaoh or Justify. I'm thinking, you're in pretty good shape to
you're off to a good start. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, Sully, good luck to you this afternoon.
Good luck to you.
And to all of you as well, we'll wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. Thanks to our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. I'll be back in about an hour with OTB Live for Sunday afternoon. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in this morning. We'll see you in a while.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.